What if I told you that one of the most beautiful bridges in the world is built over a mass grave? That its perfect arch hides hollow rooms used as torture chambers? And that the very same spot that inspires your vacation photos has inspired countless tragedies for almost 300 years? This is the Puente Nuevo in Ronda, Spain. And its story is not the one in the guidebooks. This is a story of catastrophe, war, art, and mystery. A story where the facts are stranger and darker than any fiction. We begin in 1741, when the first bridge on this spot collapsed catastrophically, killing approximately 50 people in an instant. From that tragedy, the stunning bridge you know was born. But legend says its own architect jumped from it in despair. Then, during the Spanish Civil War, its internal chambers became a prison. Soldiers threw captives from its windows, using the gorgeous gorge as a killing pit. That very horror inspired Ernest Hemingway to write a famous scene in For Whom the Bell Tolls. And today, the pattern hasn't stopped. Modern rescue workers whisper that this gorge sees several tragedies every single year. Why? What is it about this place? We are going to go deep. We will separate the powerful legends from the verified history. We will look at the cold data, the personal stories, and the eerie, supernatural theories that try to explain it all. This isn't just about a bridge. It's about what happens to a place that absorbs too much sorrow. It's about the echo of history and how it still whispers to us today. So, if you're ready to understand the full, breathtaking, and chilling truth behind this iconic landmark, stay with me until the very end. The view from the other side of the story is one you will never forget. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more journeys into the hidden heart of history. You won't want to miss what comes next. Let's go back, not to the bridge you see now, but to the one that came before. The first one, the one that failed. The year is 1741, and for 6 short years, a bridge had finally connected the two halves of Ronda. Can you imagine the relief, the joy, families reunited, trade flowing, a city made whole? Then, on an ordinary day, a Tuesday, the world changed. Without a scream, without a warning loud enough, the entire structure let go. It didn't crack and sag. It collapsed. Completely. Imagine the sound from the town square. A deep, groaning roar that wasn't thunder. Then a cloud of dust and silence rising from the gorge. That silence was the most terrible sound of all. When the dust settled, the truth was awful. The bridge was gone. And the people on it? They were gone too. Historians and records tell us approximately 50 souls vanished that day. 50. Think about that number, not as a statistic, but as people. Farmers taking goods to market, mothers visiting family, children playing. All of them, gone in a heartbeat. The city of Ronda had a population of only about 5,000 people at the time. Do the math. 1 out of every 100 people in the town died in that single moment. 1 in 100. Look around your own neighborhood and try to feel that scale of loss. The empty homes, the silent dinners, the unending shared grief that must have covered the town like a blanket. This was not just an engineering failure. It was a community's heart, torn in two. And the gorge, the beautiful, sun-drenched gorge you see in photographs, it was no longer a scenic view. In that moment, it became a grave, an open, massive grave for 50 innocent people. The very soul of the place changed. The townspeople would have looked at that canyon with horror, with trauma, a reminder of everything they lost, staring back at them every single day. The project to rebuild seemed impossible. Why would anyone dare to build again in the same cursed spot? The future of Ronda itself hung in the balance. Could they recover from such a blow? This is where our story truly begins. You see, every great shadow needs a source, and the deep, dark shadow of the modern Puente Nuevo starts here, with this catastrophe. It is the first layer of pain soaked into the stone of this place. Before any legend of a jumping architect, before any war, there was this collective, shocking trauma. A whole city experienced it together. That kind of shared energy. It doesn't just vanish. Where does it go? Some people believe places can remember. That intense emotion, especially terror and sudden loss, can somehow imprint itself on a location. Think of a room where a terrible argument happened. Doesn't it sometimes feel different, even when it's empty? Now, magnify that feeling by 50. Magnify it by a whole town's worth of mourning. What do you think that does to the very air, to the rock walls of that gorge? The new bridge would be built. Yes, it would be a marvel. But it would be built directly over this old wound. It would rise from the site of a mass tragedy. So, I have to ask you, when you build something new on top of such profound sorrow, what becomes part of its foundation? Is it just stone and mortar? Or could it be something else? Something that whispers from the past? This first disaster is the key to understanding everything that comes later. The haunting stories, the sense of dread some visitors feel, the strange pull of the place. It all starts with the 50. Their story was the first echo in this canyon. And an echo, if it's loud enough, never really fades away. It just keeps bouncing off the walls, getting softer, but never quite disappearing. Listen carefully the next time you see a picture of the bridge. In your mind, hear that deep, rumbling crash, and then the silence that followed. That silence is where the darkness began. Now, the town faced a choice, a terrible choice. They could abandon the gorge, split their city forever, or they could try again. They chose to build. And so, in 1751, work began on the bridge you see today. But this was not a quick project. This was a 34-year marathon. Think about that. 34 years. A child born when the first stone was laid would be a middle-aged adult when it finished. This was a project that consumed a generation. The manpower was immense. The cost was astronomical for the time, reportedly over 9 million reals. And the engineering? It was a nightmare. They weren't just building on land. They were stitching two cliffs together over a 400-foot void. The central arch alone was a monster of planning and fear. Workers dangled on ropes in that dizzying open air. They fought rockfalls, weather, and the ever-present memory of the 50 souls lost below them. Every stone they set was an act of defiance against the tragedy, but also an act of hope. And leading this impossible task was the man we remember as the architect, José Martín de Aldehuela. This is where the story gets dark, and where we must separate the powerful legend from the quieter truth. Here is the legend you will hear everywhere. The story says that when the bridge was finally completed in 1785, Aldehuela stood on it. He looked at his perfect creation, and he was filled with a terrible despair. He believed he could never ever build anything more beautiful, that he had reached the peak of his life, and it was all downhill from there. So consumed by this dark thought, he walked to the center of his own masterpiece and jumped to his death. It's a tragic, poetic, heartbreaking end. It feels right for a place with such a dark beginning. It gives us a single, sad figure to blame for the shadow. But history tells a different story, a quieter one. I've looked at the records The church records. They show us that José Martín de Aldehuela did not die in Ronda. He lived for years after the bridge was finished. He died in 1802 in the city of Malaga. How? From an illness. From sickness. A simple, ordinary end. Not a dramatic leap. So why? Why does every tour guide, every book, every traveler's tale tell the suicide story? Why do we, as people, need it to be true? I think it's because our minds crave a story, a clean story. The first bridge fell and killed 50 people. That's a chaotic, random tragedy. It's hard to sit with that. So for the new bridge, we create a new, more personal tragedy. We give the darkness a face, a name. We create the ghost of the heartbroken architect to explain the chill we feel on the bridge. We say, his sadness is in the stones. It's more comfortable than the truth. The truth is, the bridge itself is neutral. The sadness comes from us, from our own need to make sense of the unexplainable. We project our own understanding of despair onto a man who likely felt proud, not hopeless. But here's the fascinating twist. In a way, by believing the legend, we make it real. We have collectively decided that this is part of the bridge's story. For over 200 years, people have whispered it. That shared belief has a power of its own. It has woven Aldehuela's spirit into the very fabric of the place, whether he jumped or not. So, in a strange way, the legend becomes a fact of our collective imagination. It becomes a part of the bridge's energy because we all agree it should be. So, what do we have now? We have a new bridge built over a grave, and we have given it a guardian spirit, a sad, invented ghost. We have layered a personal myth on top of a communal tragedy. The stage is now set. The location is charged with memory and with story. The physical bridge is complete. But its psychological journey, its dark journey, is just beginning. You have to ask yourself, what kind of place have we created here? A monument to human genius, yes, but also perhaps a magnet for stories of sorrow. Because after all, if we all believe a place is touched by a tragic spirit, what else might we believe it can do? What other stories might it attract? The next chapters of its life would provide a terrifying answer. Let's look at the bridge again. But this time, don't look at the top. Look underneath the grand central arch. See those windows? They seem small from here, just decorative. But they are not decorations. They are the eyes of a hollow giant. This bridge is not solid. Inside its massive central pillar are rooms, chambers, built originally for maintenance, maybe for storage. But for 3 years, from 1936 to 1939, they served a very different purpose. During the Spanish Civil War, this beautiful bridge became a prison, a torture chamber, suspended in the sky. Think about the cruel genius of it. The nationalist forces who controlled Ronda used these rooms. And historical accounts suggest that when the Republican side briefly took the area, they used them too. Both sides found the same perfect, horrible tool. Imagine you are a prisoner. You are pushed into a cold, dark room inside a bridge. The air is damp. It smells of stone and fear. You can feel a slight, constant tremor. The footsteps of people crossing obliviously above you. And through a small window, all you can see is open sky. And the long, long drop to the rocks where the first bridge's victims lay. Can you feel the psychological terror? You are literally trapped inside the symbol of the town, over a famous grave. Your captors didn't just lock you away. They made you face the void every single day. Now the stories get worse. It is not just that people were held here. It is how they were treated and how some of them died. Local historians and the painful, passed-down memories of Ronda's families tell us that interrogations happened here, torture happened here, and then for some, the final horror. The old wooden door would open. But instead of leading to freedom, it led to the window ledge. Prisoners were thrown from these windows. They were pushed into the same gorge that had taken lives by accident nearly 2 centuries before. Think about that shift. The drop was no longer a tragic mistake. It was now a deliberate tool, a method of execution. The bridge, built to connect, was now used to disconnect people from life in the most final way possible. Its beauty became a cruel joke. What does that do to a place? We layer more pain onto it. The sorrow of the accidental 50 is one thing. It is a shared community grief. But this is the energy of hatred, of fear, of cruelty inflicted by humans on other humans. This is a darker, sharper, more violent kind of shadow. It's not a number in an old book anymore. It's the last scream of a real person, echoing in a stone room. How many screams can those walls absorb before they start to feel different? Before the air inside feels thick and heavy, even on a bright day? This period answers the question we had at the end of the last chapter. What kind of stories does a cursed place attract? It attracts the worst of our human stories. The bridge's legend of sadness and tragedy made it, in a way, the perfect setting for war's cruelty. It was as if the darkness, already there, called out to the darkness in men. And the war answered. It filled the hollow spaces with new, awful memories. So now, the bridge's story isn't just about collapse and a sad architect. It's about something much more real. It's about documented human evil. When the war ended in 1939, the prison doors were locked. The political violence in Ronda stopped. But did the energy in those rooms just leave? When you seal a door on such intense suffering, what are you sealing inside? The bridge had performed its function for the war, but it had been changed forever. It was now a monument with a secret, a beautiful face with a haunted, hollow heart. And soon, that secret would not stay local. It would catch the ear of someone famous, someone who would take the specific horror of this bridge and share it with the entire world. The whisper from the gorge was about to become a shout in a famous book. The war ended. The prison doors in the bridge were locked, but a story that powerful, it doesn't just stay put. It seeks a teller. And in the 1950s, a teller came looking for it. His name was Ernest Hemingway. He was already a famous writer, a giant of American literature. And he was drawn to Spain, to its passion and its pain. He came to Ronda. He stayed at the Parador Hotel, right there on the cliff's edge, with a perfect view of the Puente Nuevo. He didn't just see the postcard view, he listened. He drank in the bars, where people still remembered the war, where the whispers of what happened in the bridge's hollow rooms were still fresh. And he took those whispers. He took the specific, local horror of prisoners being thrown from the cliffs of Ronda, and he wrote it into one of the most famous novels of the 20th century. The book is For Whom the Bell Tolls, and in chapter 10, he writes a scene that chills the blood, a scene of execution. Fascists are taken to the edge of a cliff in a fictional town. Hemingway writes, "The first man did not want to go, and he hung there until they shot him." The description is cold, clear, and brutal. It is not a grand battle. It is a personal, ugly, intimate killing. And every historian agrees this scene was inspired by the real stories from the Puente Nuevo. Hemingway transformed the bridge's atrocity into world literature. Now think about what this means. Before Hemingway, the darkness was local. It was Ronda's private trauma. After his book was published in 1940, And as it became a global bestseller, that darkness went international. Millions of people all over the world have now imagined that fall. They have pictured that struggle on the ledge. They have felt, in their minds, the terror of being pushed from a high place in a time of war. Hemingway didn't just report a story. He broadcast it. He amplified it. He gave the bridge's specific ghost a voice that echoed in millions of minds. This creates a fascinating, almost supernatural idea. We've talked about the stone tape theory, that places can absorb energy. But what about the energy of imagination? What happens when a location's worst moment is not just remembered by a town, but vividly recreated by countless readers? It's as if Hemingway built a second, invisible bridge, a bridge made of words, connecting every reader's mind directly to that gorge in Ronda. Every time someone reads that scene and feels a chill, they are, in a way, visiting the bridge. They are adding their own moment of shock and sadness to its story. So, the bridge's shadow grows. It is no longer just a physical place with a history. It is now a powerful idea, a symbol. When you visit, you're not just visiting the site of a war crime. You're visiting the place that inspired that scene in that famous book. The real and the fictional blend together. For many visitors, Hemingway's version is the first thing they know. His words become the lens through which they see the gorge, and that lens is dark and violent and tragic. This makes you wonder about the power of a storyteller. Did Hemingway simply describe the bridge's existing energy, or did he, by writing about it so powerfully, actually charge that energy? Did he give the location a new kind of power, a celebrity of sorrow? It's a strange loop. The bridge's reality inspired fiction, and now that fiction shapes the reality of how we all experience the bridge. We look at it and we think of Hemingway's words. The whisper from the gorge became a headline in the world's imagination. And once something is in the imagination of millions, it takes on a life of its own. The bridge was now forever marked, not just by history, but by myth-making of the highest order. And the world was watching. Time moves forward. The war fades into history books. Hemingway's novel becomes a classic. And the bridge stands, beautiful as ever, in a modern, peaceful Spain. But the story does not end. The darkness does not leave. It simply changes shape. It becomes quieter, more personal, and in some ways, more mysterious. We move from the public, political horror of war to the private, invisible battles of individual hearts. This chapter is about the bridge's modern mystery. Let's talk about a specific date. Late October 2008. The scene is not a battlefield. It is a normal day. A motorbike is found parked neatly, carefully near the Parador Hotel. The key is in it. But the rider is gone. There is no note, no loud scene, just an absence. This triggered what was described in local press at the time as the largest and most complex rescue operation in Ronda's history. Firefighters, police, and mountain rescue teams combed that vast gorge. They faced terrible terrain, and they found the man's body below. This was not an accident. This was a choice, a private final choice made on a public historic landmark. Now, this single event is not a strange, one-off tragedy. It is part of a pattern. I spoke to a researcher who has looked into this, who has talked to local emergency services. The number is not official, but the whisper among rescuers is that this gorge sees an average of several of these tragedies every single year. Several. Every year. Let that settle. In the 21st century, with peace in the land, the bridge's pull remains. Why? It is not the highest point in Spain. It is not the only beautiful cliff. So why here? We have to look at everything we've layered onto this place. Think of it as a perfect storm of sorrow. First, you have the foundation, the mass grave of the 50 from 1741. Then, you have the legend, the sad ghost of the architect, a story we all agree to believe. Then, you have the historical fact, the war prison and the executions. Then, you have the fame, Hemingway's novel branding this as a place of fatal falls. It's all there. It's in the guidebooks, it's in the air, it's in the very stones. When a person in profound pain comes to this spot, what are they feeling? Are they just seeing a bridge? Or are they, on some deep level, sensing a destination for despair? A place where sadness is historically accepted? This is the hardest, most unsettling question. Does a place that has absorbed so much collective tragedy become a magnet for individual tragedy? It's as if the bridge has developed a reputation, not just with tourists, but with sorrow itself. Someone in crisis might think, that is a place where things like this happen. It becomes a logical end in a troubled mind. The beauty makes it dramatic. The history makes it feel almost expected. This transforms the bridge from a passive site into something that feels active. It is not causing the pain, but it is providing a stage for it, a stage with a terrible, familiar script. But here is where we must pause. This is not the whole story. For just as there is a pull towards an end, there is also a force fighting against it. The story of the motorbike in 2008 is also the story of the largest rescue operation. It is about people who rushed toward the gorge to help. It is about the community's refusal to just let the darkness have its way. This brings us to the next, crucial layer of the bridge's modern tale. The story of the shadows is real, but so is the story of the lights rushing toward them. The rescuers. Their story changes everything. After so much talk of shadows, let me tell you about the light. It is not a grand, shining light. It is a quiet, determined, human light. It arrives in the form of people like Maria. In November of 2024, Maria, an ambulance technician, was on a normal call near the bridge. Then she saw her, a woman, alone, on the wrong side of the safety rail. The void of the gorge was right there. Maria didn't shout. She didn't run. She knew any sudden move could be the last. So, she approached slowly. She started talking, not as a rescuer to a victim, but as one person to another. She asked her name. She asked about her day. She listened. She created a thread of connection, a lifeline made of simple words. And after what felt like forever, the woman took her hand. Maria pulled her back to solid ground. She saved a life on the Puente Nuevo that day. This is the other side of the story, the side we must hear. For every moment of despair that Bridge has witnessed, there is a corresponding moment of incredible courage. Maria is not alone. She is part of an army you never see. The local police, the firefighters of the Consorcio de Bomberos de Ronda, the Guardia Civil, the psychologists who train them. They have a protocol for this bridge. They know its history not as a legend, but as a workplace. A very dangerous one. They train to approach with calm, to use slow, deliberate movements, to avoid words that sound like commands. Their goal is to build a bridge of trust, a human connection over that physical gorge. They are fighting the shadow with the most basic human tools: eye contact, a steady voice, an outstretched hand. Think about what that job does to a person. These rescuers carry a different weight. They carry the weight of knowing the history, feeling the pull of the place, and still walking toward it. They see the fear in a person's eyes. Not the abstract fear of ghosts, but the real, sharp fear of a living moment. After a rescue or after a recovery, they debrief. They talk it out. They share a coffee and shake off the chill. The bridge affects them too. They speak of it with a kind of respectful seriousness. It is not just a monument to them. It is a challenge, a recurring call that tests their humanity every single time. This changes the energy of the place, you see. For centuries, the story has been one-sided. The bridge takes. But now, there is a new, powerful counter-story. The bridge is where people are brought back, where the community says, "No, not here, not today." Every successful intervention is a rewrite. It is a new memory imprinted on the old stones, a memory of a grip held tight, of feet on solid ground, of a breath of relief. These moments matter. They are as real as the tragedies. So, when we ask if the bridge is cursed or haunted, we must also ask this: is it also guarded? Is it also protected? The data of despair is met with the data of dedication. The number of silent tragedies is matched by the number of silent, unseen interventions that never make the news. The rescuer who talks for an hour, the police officer who shares a cigarette and a story. These are the quiet exorcisms. This chapter forces us to see the bridge in full. It is not just a magnet for an end, it is also a stage for a beginning. The beginning of a different story. The person who walks away from that ledge carries a new memory of the place. They carry the memory of a face that cared, a voice that listened, a hand that held on. And in that, there is a profound, quiet magic. The bridge's final chapter is not written in stone. It is written in every choice to reach out. The gorge may echo with sorrow, but the wind also carries the sound of a gentle question. What is your name? And sometimes that is enough. Now we come to the great, fascinating question that has been hanging in the air since we started. Can a place actually remember? We have talked about layers of pain, layers of history, but what if those layers are not just stories? What if they are literally, physically impressed upon the spot? There is an idea, a compelling theory, that tries to explain exactly this. It is called the stone tape theory. Let me explain it simply. Think of a stone wall or a cliff face, like an old-fashioned cassette tape. The theory suggests that during moments of intense human emotion, sheer terror, violent death, overwhelming grief, a kind of psychic energy is released, and that energy can be recorded into the very rock and stone around it. Like a natural recording. Then, under the right conditions, that recording can play back. This is not official science, of course, but it is a powerful idea that many people feel explains the chill they get in certain historic places. Let's apply this theory to our bridge. We have not just one event. We have a perfect stack of them, all in one precise location. First, the foundational trauma. The catastrophic collapse of 1741, with 50 people experiencing terror and death in an instant. That is a massive burst of sudden collective fear. Then decades of the legend of the architect's despair. Whether true or not, the belief itself is a form of focused emotional energy from all of us. Then the war years, the hollow rooms filled with the sustained, cruel energy of torture, hatred, and the specific terror of prisoners being thrown to their deaths. That is years of concentrated human evil. Then, layer upon layer of modern, personal despair, each one a smaller, but no less intense, point of pain. If the stone tape theory has any merit, then the Puente Nuevo is not just a location. It is a densely packed archive of human suffering, a library of screams and silences built into limestone. Now, listen to the visitors, not the happy tourists taking photos. Listen to the others, the ones who write in travel forums, who speak quietly to researchers. They report things: a sudden, unexplained cold spot on a warm day, a feeling of being watched from the windows below, a sense of profound sadness that washes over them for no reason. And most chilling of all, some report a strange, intrusive thought, a quiet voice in their own mind, not their own, that simply says, "Jump." They were not thinking of it before, but for a second, the idea is just there. Where did it come from? Science has clear answers. Vertigo from the height, a physiological response. The power of suggestion from knowing the dark history, our own brains playing tricks. This is the logical, rational view, and it is probably correct. But let me ask you this. Have you ever walked into an empty room where a terrible argument just happened? The air feels thick, right? You can feel it, even though nothing is there. That is a small, everyday version of this idea. Now multiply that feeling by 50 deaths. Multiply it by 3 years of war. Multiply it by decades of private sorrow. What would that room feel like? The scientific explanation and the paranormal idea start to circle each other. They might even be describing the same thing in different languages. Science calls it subconscious suggestion and psychological priming. The other view calls it a psychic imprint. Both agree on one thing. The place affects people. It communicates something. So, what are we left with? We are left with a bridge that is more than a sum of its stones. It is a convergence point, a place where history, story, emotion, and human psychology all meet and mix. The stone tape theory gives us a beautiful, scary metaphor for understanding this. It doesn't matter if you believe the rocks are literally recording energy. What matters is the effect. The bridge, through its accumulated past, has developed an atmosphere, a personality. It tells a story without words, and that story is heavy. It is sad. It is frightening. When you stand there, you are not just hearing the wind. You are standing in the middle of a silent, historical shout. The theory helps us understand why the numbers we will talk about next feel so much heavier than just numbers. They feel like a weight the bridge itself carries. Let's step back from the stories for a moment. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers, because numbers are a language of their own. They are facts without feeling. But when you line them up for this bridge, they tell a story so stark, it takes your breath away. This chapter is about the data graveyard, the mathematics of the shadow. Start at the beginning. The number is 50. That's the approximate count of lives lost in the first bridge collapse in 1741. One event, one catastrophic moment, 50 people gone. Then, the number 34. That's how many years it took to build the replacement, the bridge we see today, from 1751 to 1785. That's more than 3 decades of labor, fear, and hope poured into the same spot. Fast forward. The number 3. The years from 1936 to 1939, when the bridge's hollow chambers were used as a prison and torture room during the Civil War. We don't have a precise number of victims here, but the period is a block of time dedicated to suffering. Now, leap to modern times, the year 2008, the specific incident of the abandoned motorbike and the largest rescue operation in Ronda's history at that time. One life lost that we know of, that made the news. Then, the year 2024, the successful intervention by the ambulance technician, Maria. One life saved, a counter number. But here is the number that changes everything. It's an estimate, a whisper from rescue workers to researchers. The average, several tragedies per year, every year, for decades. Let's be conservative. Let's say several means at least three. That's 3 per year over, say, the last 50 years. That's another 150 silent private tragedies layered onto the history. This is not a confirmed official statistic, but it is the repeated, sober estimate from those who work there. It is the pattern they see. Now, add them up, not to get a total, but to feel the weight. 50 plus 34, plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 150. You see, this is no longer about ghost stories. This is a consistent, documented pattern of death and crisis spanning almost 300 years. The numbers reveal a pattern logic cannot easily explain. A bridge that is the site of a one-in-a-century disaster. That's chance. A bridge that is also a chosen site for war crimes. That's circumstance. A bridge that continues to be a focal point for personal despair, year after year, generation after generation. That is a pattern. The data itself is unsettling. What do these numbers create? They create a statistical gravity, a pull. Think of it like this. If you hear about one plane crash at an airport, it's a tragedy. If you hear about 10 different plane crashes at the same small airport over 50 years, you start to ask questions about the airport itself. Is there a strange wind pattern, a magnetic anomaly, something about that specific location? The Puente Nuevo, by the numbers, is that airport. The evidence is in the timeline. This moves us beyond folklore, beyond bad energy. We are now looking at a historical and social phenomenon. The numbers force a hard question. Is there a threshold, a tipping point? After a certain amount of tragedy, does a place become permanently marked in the human mind? Does it become a symbol, a destination for that specific kind of ending? The data suggests yes. The pattern is too long, too consistent to ignore. So, when you visit, you are not just visiting a pretty bridge. You are walking onto a site with a measurable, heavy history. You are standing on a data point. The numbers are silent, but they shout. They tell us that the beauty is real, yes, but the shadow has a weight, and that weight can be felt in the quiet, not as a ghost, but as a simple, terrible sum. This is the power of the pattern. It makes the feeling of dread reasonable, and that might be the most frightening thing of all. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are there, right now. You have heard all of this history, all of these numbers and stories, and now you are walking onto the Puente Nuevo. The sun is warm. The view is unbelievable. But it is different for you now, isn't it? You are not a tourist anymore. You are a witness. This chapter is a guide for how to visit a place like this, how to see it, feel it, and listen to it in a way that honors everything that has happened here. This is about turning a visit into a pilgrimage of quiet respect. First, I want you to stop in the very center. Feel the solid stone under your feet. This is the apex, the highest point over the gorge. Now, touch the wall. Put your hand flat on the warm limestone. Close your eyes for just a second. This stone was placed here between 1751 and 1785. Think of the hands that shaped it, the ropes that lifted it, the fear and the hope of the workers who hung over nothingness to set it here. This wall felt the tremors of the 1741 collapse. It felt the marching boots of soldiers. It has absorbed the heat of countless sunny days and the chill of long, dark nights. Your hand is touching 250 years of time. Can you feel the difference between just looking and actually touching? You are making a physical connection with the past. Second, walk to the railing. Look down into the gorge. But don't just look. Listen. Listen to the wind moving through that deep space. It doesn't sound like normal wind, does it? It has a voice, a low, soft howl as it moves through the rocky channels. That sound has been here longer than the bridge. It heard the crash of the first bridge. It carried the cries of the war prisoners. It has been the last thing countless ears have heard. When you listen to that wind, you are listening to the one constant witness to everything. What do you hear in it? Sadness, peace, or just the clean, empty sound of nature, holding all our stories without judgment? Third, and this is the most important part, look at those windows, the ones under the arch. From up here, they look small, innocent. Now picture yourself not outside, but inside that room. It is dark. It is cold. The only view is a small rectangle of sky, and below it, the terrifying drop. This was someone's entire world for days, maybe weeks. This was the last thing they saw before they were pushed. Can you feel the shift? You are no longer just seeing architecture. You are seeing a last sight, a final frame. By picturing it, you are remembering them. You are pulling their memory up from the gorge for a moment. You are saying, I see what you saw. This mindful visit changes the energy. Your visit is no longer just about taking something, a photo, a selfie. It is about giving something, your attention, your moment of silence, your respect. You become part of the bridge's story in a new way. You are not another victim of its shadow. You are not ignoring its past. You are a bearer of light, simply by knowing, by acknowledging. You are adding a layer of quiet contemplation to a place used for noise and violence. That matters. It truly does. When you walk away, you will carry the beauty with you, but you will also carry the weight. And that is okay. To carry the weight is to honor it. It means you understood. You felt the scale of human experience in that one spot. Our genius, our tragedy, our cruelty, our compassion, and our ability to remember. You have now stood in the center of the story. And by listening, you have helped to change its echo from one of pure sorrow to one that also includes remembrance. And remembrance is a form of peace. So, what is the dark side of the Puente Nuevo? We have walked through all of it now. The catastrophic collapse of the first bridge, the long, hard construction of the second, the legend of the heartbroken architect, the war prison in the sky, Hemingway's famous, terrible scene, the modern mysteries, the quiet tragedies, the brave rescues, the theories of stone that remembers, and the cold, heavy weight of the numbers. You have felt all of these layers. Now, let me give you the final piece. The simple, stunning truth that ties it all together. The dark side of the Puente Nuevo is us. It is humanity. The bridge is a perfect, silent mirror. It reflects back at us the full spectrum of what we are. Look at what it shows. It shows our breathtaking genius, our ability to dream of stitching two cliffs together with stone, and to spend 34 years making it real. That is us at our best. Our ambition, our creativity, our determination. But the very same mirror, in the very same spot, shows our carelessness, the engineering flaw that killed 50 people. It shows our cruelty, the war that turned beauty into a torture chamber. It shows our art. Hemingway, transforming horror into powerful story. It shows our private despair, the personal battles lost on a public ledge. And it shows our compassion, the rescuer's hand reaching out to pull someone back. This is the aha moment. The bridge is not haunted by ghosts. It is haunted by human history. It is haunted by our choices, our failures, our art, and our kindness. Every layer we have talked about is a human layer. The stones did not decide to fall. The gorge did not ask for victims. We built, we fought, we wrote, we suffered, we saved. The bridge simply stood there, and it remembered everything we did around it, to it, and from it. This changes everything, doesn't it? It takes the mystery out of the supernatural and places it squarely back into the human. Which is more powerful, really? A ghost, or the real, accumulated weight of centuries of human emotion? A spooky feeling, or the knowledge that you are standing on a place that has seen the absolute worst and the very best of what people can be? So, the final question the bridge asks you is not, do you believe in ghosts? The question is, what do you believe about us? About humanity? Look into this mirror. Do you see only the darkness? Or do you see the stubborn, persistent light fighting back? The rescue is as much a part of the truth as the tragedy. The memory is as important as the loss. Your mindful visit, your moment of respect, is a new layer, a layer of peace. You carry this story now, all of it. When you see a picture of this beautiful bridge, you will see the stone giant. You will see the keeper of shadows. But you will also see the fragile, flickering light of human resilience. You will hear the echo in the gorge, and you will know it is our own echo, bouncing back through time. The story of the Puente Nuevo is not a sad story. It is a complete story, and it is ours. In the end, the most powerful thing you can do is to carry it forward with understanding and with a little more light. So, what have we learned after this long journey across the bridge? We have seen its full story. From its terrifying start with the collapse that killed 50 people, to the legend of its sad architect. We walked through its hollow rooms that became a war prison, and we saw how that real horror inspired Hemingway's famous book. We looked at the modern mysteries, like the abandoned motorbike in 2008, and the brave rescues that happen right there, like the one in 2024. We even explored the strange idea that the stones themselves might remember all this pain. When you put it all together, one truth stands clear. The Puente Nuevo is more than stone and mortar. It is a mirror. It shows us the very best and the very worst of who we are as people. It shows our amazing skill in building such a thing. And it shows our terrible carelessness in the first collapse. It shows our deep cruelty during war. And it shows our powerful art in Hemingway's writing. It shows our private sadness in modern times. And most importantly, it shows our beautiful compassion in the rescuers who reach out a hand. The bridge does not have a dark side. It has a human side. Every bit of its shadow was put there by us, by our history, our choices, our violence, and our care. The ghosts here are not spirits. They are memories. They are the echoes of all the lives touched by this place, the lost, the saved, the frightened, and the brave. This means you are part of this story now. You carry this knowledge. When you see a picture of this beautiful bridge, you will see all these layers. You will understand its weight. And that changes everything. You are no longer just a viewer. You are a witness who understands. The story of the Puente Nuevo teaches us a final, simple lesson. Places are not born with sadness. We bring our story to them, and we decide what happens next. Will we only see the beauty, or will we also remember the depth? Will we choose to be part of the shadow or part of the light that fights it? The echo is in your hands now. Thank you for listening, for understanding, and for staying until the end. If this journey changed how you see history, let us know. Like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.